Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Hello and welcome back to Court Reporter. I'm here with Judge Kent Jasperson, rerunning for Justice of the Peace, 6-year term as we talked about. Right before we went to break, we were talking about how you have to work with the Sheriff's Department and that you're on call if something happens with the jail. Talk to me a little bit about working with the DA. I had him on my show a few months back. Seems like a great guy. Tell me what your relationship is and how you guys have to work together.
Well, as we all remember from government class, there's basically 3 branches of government. There's the executive branch, there's the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. So we're all equal and separate. The DA's office, their ultimate responsibility is to determine whether or not a crime has been committed, what crime needs to be charged, and how they're going to charge it, okay? They draft all of the charging documents, and then they file those with the court.
Okay.
Once they're filed with the court, that's the moving document that starts the court hearings, the pretrial hearings, the bench trials, the prelim hearings. And until that is actually filed, a person can see it, and that's a misunderstanding with a lot of people. Just because you got arrested and taken to jail, and then you got released from jail, you're not really charged with a crime until the DA's office files a charging document. Once they file a criminal complaint that actually charges you, then you're charged with a crime. Now, the other thing is that they have what they call a statute of limitations, and depending on what crime they are going to charge, they can charge you, if it's a misdemeanor, anywhere within a year from the time you're arrested or not arrested or when the incident occurred. If it's a felony, some felonies they can charge you between 3 and 4 years after it happened if they want to. So just because you went to jail, got released, and no charges were filed within a month doesn't mean that later on down the road there can't be charges filed. But that whole decision process is the DA's office, and that's their responsibility.
Their responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed too, I've heard of stories of people that come through, I don't know, I'll use an example here, but a domestic issue. She called the cops and he got arrested, and then they came to your court, and now she says it didn't happen, but then the DA can still charge him. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because of the fact of a domestic relationship, a lot of people have realized that maybe that one or the other doesn't want the relationship to fall apart, and maybe they know it'll fall apart if they testify against the other one, so there'll be a change of heart, you know, or they'll change their mind and not want to get the other one in trouble. But once it's been charged, if there's enough to charge somebody, the state or the DA's office can go forward with that without whether or not the victim wants to have it charged or not.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, because I can just imagine men and women, I know it goes both ways, but getting battered or something and basically being afraid to testify, you know, and, you know, backing out, but the DA still has their, you know, best interest at heart there.
Right, and they can still, like I said, they can still charge that. They can go forward with that case, and whether or not she wants to testify, if they've got enough evidence or they feel that their case is strong enough, or they could even put her on the stand and treat her as what they call a hostile witness, and the questioning or the cross-examination or the examination of her while she's on the stand is a little bit different than a regular witness. So, but they can still do that.
Now, is that just domestic, or let's say somebody broke into a place and then the other person dropped charges? And DA, do they still have the authority to prosecute if they wanted to?
Yeah,
so
they do. That's their whole area of responsibility, and it's their decision. They've come into court on some cases and said, look, we can't find our witnesses, so we don't think we have a strong enough case to go forward without them, so they'll go ahead and dismiss. Or they've come in and said, well, we don't find our witness, but we've got enough other witnesses without this witness that we can go forward, and they'll go forward without them. So,
we said that was interesting. Let's talk a little bit about, well, let's start with that you attended National Judicial College. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
The National Judicial College is at the University of Nevada, Reno, in Reno, Nevada. It's on the campus up there. It is run strictly by judicial alumni people. I mean, there's office staff, but a lot of the instructors are other judges or attorneys that have gone through there or been part of that. It's a real educational event to go up there. It's also a requirement by statute, which a lot of people don't know. Once you get elected to the office, The statute says that you must attend the Judicial College after the first one after your election. The only exception to that is if you have a written letter excusing you from that from a district court judge or higher.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't attend the Judicial College and you don't have a letter from a district court judge or higher excusing you from attending that, the remedy for that is that you have to forfeit your elected position.
Wow.
And that's by statute. That's on state law.
Now, what would happen if you had to forfeit your, does a second runner move up, or how's that work, do you know?
I don't have any idea if they would have to do a special election or if they
Wow.
would appoint somebody. I don't know. But I don't know why you would not want to attend because, like I said, it's an educational experience. You gain a lot of knowledge up there. You get to know a lot of other judges and attorneys throughout the state. And you always have somebody else that if you wanted to or you had questions about or something you weren't sure about, you could always draw on their knowledge as well as yours, and it's just a great tool to have to go to and attend.
Now, do you have to go back again if you're reelected, or is it just basically one time?
No, it's just the one time. But the Judicial College does offer classes throughout the year that if you want, you can do continuing education and you can attend classes. They also offer webinar classes that in fact, I just took a webinar class today that was like an hour and a half long. It was on note-taking for judges. That was sponsored by the AOC, which is the Administrative Offices of the Court. And so there's always continuing education. The laws are always changing. Every time the legislature meets, they change the laws, or every time the Supreme Court gets a case in front of them and they make a decision based on something, the law changes. So it's not something that once you get in the position that you can just kind of kick back and coast.
Gotcha.
You're always upgrading your information. You're always changing your education. You're always going to things.
Yeah, so you basically, I can imagine that with all the law changes, you would constantly have to keep pursuing to learn more.
Right.
If not, you get yourself in trouble. But it looks like we're actually out of time for the second segment, so we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I want to come back and talk about some of your volunteer work that you've done.
All right, sounds good.
Court reporter with Stovall and Associates.